a good producer is able to make music stand out. You're able to make things that are appealing to brands, then like, dude, you're set, you know? I mean, like, I'm going to promote the things that I use. And especially if they're good, you know? My role as a producer is to be your inner monologue that you are going to ignore. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to sound like Bilmuri. Like, maybe not like the full heavy thing, but dude, Johnny is a fucking genius, bro. Like, every single band in Wisconsin that's like under that umbrella is like fire. Like, I find a new band every day that I'm just like, this is insane.
Welcome to Beyond Time Signatures. Today with us, we have Joey Burcham. Joey, welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling today?
Dude, I am so stoked to be here. This is so sick.
Hell yeah, I'm so glad to finally have you. So for the people that might not know who you are, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, my name's Joey Burcham. I am a producer, songwriter, mix, master, mostly content creator. I feel like nowadays, you know, that's the big buzzword everyone likes to use. But yeah, I just make music with my friends. That's like what I like doing. And I make videos on the internet.
Hell yeah, man. And I'm really excited to talk to you about and on a lot of topics, especially because I have such an affinity towards pop punk. Because usually, for most people, pop punk is something that they get into before they get into the more aggressive genres. Because that's where you probably first hear guitars, and then you like, oh, I like the sound, how a guitar sounds, and let me try and get more into like the heavier stuff, and like that's just how it goes. So
definitely,
firstly, I would start by asking you, like, what's your first known memory with music?
My first known memory, like with music in general?
Yeah, in life.
Okay. So I started playing guitar when I was 4 years old.
Okay.
And I was in I lived in this tiny little like mountain town in Southern Virginia. And I played bluegrass. Do you know what bluegrass is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, that was like all I knew was playing bluegrass. And the oldest bluegrass festival in North America is in my hometown. And so
wait, where are you from?
Galax, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a little tiny town. Like, it's like there's 7,000 people in it. It's tiny, but we're known for like bluegrass basically. And so my first memory is playing at that festival. And there was probably like 5,000 people there, but it was like on the radio, and I was like wearing cowboy. I'm like 5 years old. I'm wearing cowboy boots and like a cowboy hat. I'm dressed up like Gene Autry, who's like this old cowboy actor. And I played the song called Old Joe Clark. And yeah, it's funny. My family like still has the guitar and everything, but that's like my first real memory, because that was the first time that I was like, wow, that's a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's so cool. Like, at an early age, you were exposed to such a big crowd, and like, it's in a way, like, music and also the experience of playing music live gets ingrained at such an early age. It's like, it has an impact, like with stage presence and all that stuff.
Oh,
I see you like, jumping around in the John Harvey reels, and I'm like, damn, man, that was a big jump. And I'm like, sick.
Yeah. Yep. That's all from when I got older, and I used to play in this pop punk band that was really bad. But our whole thing was, if we look cool, we'll sound better than we actually are. And so we were doing like the synchronized jumps and like the kicks and like the spins and everything. But like, meanwhile, we were all like completely out of tune, and like, it was just not good, but it looked sick, But yeah, I mean, I think like, cause yeah, basically my whole childhood, I traveled around and played bluegrass festivals like all through the South. And I think, yeah, like doing that so young and getting in front of crowds like that was really like beneficial, because I never really got stage fright until like post COVID, because like I stopped playing for a long time. And then when I came back, I guess I was kind of just like, oh, well, back to the huge. And then I got up and was like, oh, and it kind of hit me a little bit then. But yeah, it definitely made it a lot easier, growing up to be able to do that.
I see. And at what stage were you introduced to pop punk and punk music and stuff?
Yeah, so I moved with my mom up to like the suburbs of DC, like Washington, DC.
Okay.
And there was a girl that lived down the street from me who turned into like one of my best friends. And she had like the OG iPod Classic. And I remember just telling her like, yeah, like, because she was like, she listened to everything. Like she had like the full 180 gig iPod that was like maxed out. I thought she was so cool. And I told her like, she asked me like, what do you listen to? And I was like, I listen to like bluegrass, but I also really like Van Halen and like Nickelback and Creed. And she was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna fix that. And she gave me her iPod for like a week and was just like, listen to anything and everything. And I remember finding, literally because the name started with A, I found All Time Low and I found A Day to Remember. And those were like my two first like pop punk bands. Well, I guess you could say A Day to Remember is like heavier, but that was like A Day to Remember was the gateway to like, stuff that had breakdowns. And I felt like super cool because I was like, ooh, he's like screaming, And then All Time Low was like the softer stuff. And plus they were from Baltimore, which was only like 3 hours away. And so, yeah, those were like my two first bands, I feel like. And it kind of just grew from there.
I see. Yeah. That's crazy. Because, yeah, and I assume like that's probably how you got into like, more, okay, I like the sound, and maybe then started listening to, I don't know, Sum 41, Blink 182.
Yeah,
and all those.
I feel like I'm always late to stuff. Like I always find things after they've like, not like gotten cool, but like after they've kind of like had their first moment or whatever. And so like I, got really into like, yeah, Sum 41 and like Yellow Card and Mayday Parade and like, the
dude,
kind
Yellow
of more
Card's
like
so cool.
Yellow Card is sick, dude.
I know.
Like, what's that one, the record Southern Air? Like, I feel like nobody talks about, like, everybody talks about like Ocean Avenue and stuff, but like, dude, they've got bangers, dude, like heaters. But I got into like all of that stuff, I guess, like the more like pop side of like the, pop punk. And then I joined my first band, and one of them was like, I think it was the guitar player was like, oh dude, I feel like you would really like this song. And he showed me Empty Space by The Story So Far. And that just like completely altered my brain chemistry forever. And I was like, I need to find more like this. And so I heard like What You Don't See. And then I went back and listened to Under Soil and Dirt. And that's when I was like, wow, dude, like, this whole time I've been playing this genre, I like, or listening to this genre, it's just kind of been like power chords and like octave leads and like, not to say that it's not hard, but like, it's not, it's very simple. And as soon as I heard The Story So Far, I was like, wow, this is like insane musicianship and songwriting, with like insane parts that are like kind of hard, because I at that time was playing drums in all of the bands that I played in. I played drums because everyone so everyone already had guitar players. And I would tell people like, oh, like I've been playing guitar for like 15 years. And they would be like, cool. Well, we don't need a guitar player. We need a drummer. And so I played drums. I like bought like a really, cheap drum kit and like joined 3 bands playing drums. And then everybody was like, oh dude, you're like way better at guitar than drums. Why are you playing drums? But yeah, I heard The Story So Far and was like, dude, these drums are like insane. And I remember trying to learn some of the drum parts, and I was like, there's no way that like this is humanly possible to play. I mean, like, it's not crazy hard. It's not like, fucking Animals as Leaders or whatever. But I was just like, the fact that this is in like pop punk and dude, like even like knuckle puck and like all that stuff, like it was another level of musicianship to where it kind of took me back to like my bluegrass days where it was like, oh, this is kind of tough, you know, like I actually have to practice this and like really feel through this. Whereas like, you know, you can learn an all-time low song in like 20 minutes if you've been playing guitar for long enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But yeah, that was like that was the big moment for me was like the Story So Far. They'll like always be in my, you know, top, one of my favorite bands for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear because they're indeed a really really sick band.
Mm-hmm.
And like how long were you like playing music before you thought that, hey, maybe I should like record and get more into the production side of things, etc.
Yeah. So, I mean, I played in bands all through high school and I was like as high school went on, like my bands kind of got more and more serious. And by my senior year of high school, the band that I was playing with was like, you know, doing like little mini tours and stuff. Like we were playing more and like traveling a little bit. And so we decided that after we graduated, we were going to move to Nashville. Just to like, you know, be in like Music City in you know, bigger place than DC. Cause like the music scene in DC was, for what we were trying to do, was kind of dying a little bit. I was in an indie band at this point. It wasn't like pop punk. I changed and was playing like, it was kind of like Arctic Monkeys, like Cage the Elephant kind of stuff. Yeah. And so we moved to Nashville and I had been demoing like a lot for every band that I had been in, like, you know, doing little like acoustic demos, and like I had made like an acoustic EP and like, you know, kind of just like fucking around. It wasn't like this is good. Like I knew it sounded bad, but I was kind of like, you know, I feel like this is how everyone gets into it. But I was like demoing stuff, and I was demoing stuff for other bands, and we moved down to Nashville and we decided we wanted to do like the debut record, you know, like we just relocated and everything, and making a record in Nashville, the you know, the normal way is kind of expensive, especially for like a bunch of, you know, 18, 19-year-olds that just moved out of their parents' house and are broke working minimum wage jobs. So I was like, you know what?
What's like the normal way of regular way of doing the Nashville sessions?
Well, like, you know, hiring a producer and booking studio time and like, you know, I guess like not DIY, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
'Cause like I am painfully DIY. Like, you know, I'm always trying to like cut costs and be like, okay, what can I do myself, but to the quality that I hold my standards to and stuff. And so I told him, I was like, dude, I think I could make this record. Like, I think we could just do it here at the house. Like maybe we'll book out a studio for a day and go track all of the drums there, but I'll mix it. I'll do all of this stuff. And if it sucks, we didn't waste any money. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And I made it. And I honestly think like still to this day, it kind of holds up. It's not great, you know, but like for what it was at that time, like I was only using free plugins, like free and like stock plugins, because I didn't know anything about plugins at that point. And I was just watching YouTube tutorials, and I would literally like work my shitty restaurant job from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., come home and just work on that record from like 6 p.m. until 4 a.m. every day.
Damn.
For months, like 3 or 4 months, I was doing that.
Wow.
And yeah, made the record, and it was, you know, decent, like not terrible. I mean, maybe not to the standard of if we had gone into a studio or something, but made it. And that's when I was like, you know what? I don't really like being in a band, you know, like I don't really like because, you know, I mean, the guys in that band and I weren't really getting along at that point. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to produce. Like, I think I'm just going to record for people. Cause honestly, like, I had wanted to take that band creatively in some different directions and they didn't agree, which is cool. But I was just like, dude, I'm in an indie band, but I listen to like, pop punk and like a lot of like, like prog. Like I was listening to a lot of like Periphery and, not like tech, proggy metal. But like, I also loved playing country because of bluegrass. And I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be in a band that does all of this. Like, I should just produce for people. But now you've got Bill Murray, Bill Murray basically does all of that. But yeah, I was like, why be in one band with one sound when I could make this record and then jump to this record and then jump to this record and it just be all different genres and I can write all of it and I can produce it. And, that just seemed way more appealing to me. And so that's what I did. I left that band and just started producing. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. That sounds like a really coming of age story where you're like, you did something and you got results and you're like, oh shit, I should maybe double down on that and go forward with it.
Yeah.
And I think in the early, I would say the first couple of years of you getting into production, there must have been so much to learn from, not just about the genre characteristics, but also about what had been done in the past. What I want to know, I'm always curious about this because when I was listening to pop punk, I was big on guitars, but I had zero production idea. And it was only when I started listening to more technical stuff was when I started paying attention towards production. So I completely missed out on the part where I knew anything about everything from drums to guitar tones to production,
sure.
Stuff in what happens in pop punk. So you must have done an analysis on your end from your favorite records from the past. What have you seen was like the norm or favorite, like genre favorites, how in metal we have a 5150 amp as a genre favorite, something like that, but more widespread throughout, like the bass tones. What were you think people were into at the time versus how have those things evolved now? I would love to know that from you.
Oh man. I always I've kind of tried to steer clear of like the genre norms of things. It was kind of always like, okay, I'm going to listen to this record and I'm not going to look up what it was. I'm just going to see if I can find my way there. You know what I mean? Like,
I see.
Through whatever. I mean, like, I feel like the norm has kind of always been, especially for like the pop punk stuff, is like Marshall, like the kind of like, clean, but like broken up. It's never like 5150, like full, just, it's kind of like that mid breakup. Edge of breakup with like a tube screamer in front of it, or like a Vox. It's always something that's like kind of British, where it's like in that sort of mid gain land, and layering. Like layering to me, I think is the most important part. Because like you listen back to those story records, and it's so sick because they'll have this like sort of like lighter gain, twangy like lead that's playing over top of like really distorted power chords. And so you get this really interesting sort of clarity from, and this is kind of what I've based all of my guitar tones off of. You get this sort of clarity from those open notes, but then you also get like the power from the distorted power chords underneath it, which also I feel like is kind of a thing in bluegrass, because like bluegrass is always played in like
on a banjo.
Yeah, well, like banjos are in open tunings, right? It's an open G.
Right.
And so like you really rely on a lot of those like resonant, like open strings. Correct. Same thing with like in bluegrass, you never play up the neck. Like you're always in like first position or whatever. I mean, like you can, but you're always relying on open strings because it's the clearest sound that you can get on a guitar. It has the most resonance. And so I heard that in the story records. And I was like, I mean, like, dude, you know the song High Regard?
I don't recall it. But
It's
I'm sure
like,
I've heard it.
well, they've just got so many, like, even States and Mines and like Quicksand, like they all have a lead that's getting played, but at the same time as a lead, the open string underneath the string that they're fretting is open the whole time. And so you get that sort of like, just resonance from the open string. And so that to me has always been something that I've like paid attention to, if that makes sense.
I hear you. Yeah.
And like chord voicings and stuff. Which like, again, that's why I think Story and Knuckle Puck and all of those bands are so sick, because it's not just power chords. Like, yeah, there's power chords in it, but there's like more on top of it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. There's always like some sort of a movement that goes on in the top line that
right,
accompanies the vocals. Yeah.
It's almost like it's like there's two melodies going on most of the time.
Right.
It's like there's the vocal melody, but then the guitars are also singing too. And they have like a counter melody that works with both the chords and the vocal melody.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, on surface, it looks like, since the genre doesn't use like I would say extended voicings and stuff like that, it sounds like it's easier to do. But I think making it sound lush and making it sound full is where the layering comes in, and that's why it's not as easy as it meets the eye, because everything's so like packed together that it feels like a single guitar part, but it's actually not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Would you say that's a skill in itself, to have so many layers sound so that it's harder to make up that how many layers is it made up of and stuff like that?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, like I say it all the time, like, layering is everything to me, whether it's like drums or guitars or bass or anything. And it takes a lot to be able to not make it sound like just mush, especially like, I do a lot of kind of like grungy or shoegaze stuff. And when you need that like wall of like that giant wall of sound, sometimes I'll have like 4 or 5 different layers of just rhythm guitar. And then there's like, those sort of lead movement layers on top of it. And so getting those to like sit together, like, it's kind of tough,
I see. And what have you felt like that's evolved into now? Like, because now like pop punk is not the same as the pop punk it was 10 years ago. For
No.
like, it's more produced. It sounds like, more I don't know, it sounds more well rounded and stuff like that.
Sure.
So like what do you feel has changed over the years in terms of like production?
So I actually have very I don't know if it's hot takes on this, but
you can have yours.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the MGK record kind of changed everything. Personally, I am not.
Was it the Tickets to My Downfall record?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I'm not that big of a fan of it. It feels like, we were at this sort of like, I don't know, I'm gonna make it. Yeah, I'm gonna make it sound way more grand than it was. But like, 2015, we were having this sort of like cultural renaissance where it was like, bands like Knuckle Puck and Story were like really pushing the musicianship of the genre, and then MGK to me kind of just felt like a regression back to like power chords and like back to Blink, which like there's nothing wrong with Blink. It's just a different vibe.
True.
You know what I mean? One thing I will say is I used to teach guitar lessons in Nashville, and I had a lot of kids that wanted to learn MGK songs. And so
actually,
oh yeah.
Damn.
Like he did that collab album with Trippie Redd, and then after that, like all of the rappers started putting guitar in their songs.
Yeah,
and, it was super easy stuff, like literally just one note most of the time. But Yeah, dude, I would have kids that would want to learn like Trippy Red songs or like Juice World songs and stuff like that. And I think that that only happened because of that MGK record. And so I'll give the dude all the credit in the world for that, because like we, you know, thank God guitar is cool again, because there for a while, like in the mainstream, I feel like it kind of wasn't, you know,
Yeah.
which really sucks. But what I will say now is that the MGK record, I think, made rock cool again, right?
I
So
hear you.
now we have like all of the pop guys that are coming over, and like, you know, people coming from all of these other genres. I mean, like, and that to me is what has made the most difference in the production of this kind of stuff, because, you know, a lot of things are, you know, way more sample replaced than they would have been 10 years ago. And, or not, maybe not like more replaced, but it sounds more fake, you know, like it's, you know, we've gone from using trigger files to using just straight up one shots. You know, there's trap hats in stuff. There's like 808s, and like sub bass and like way more auto tune. And those are all things that come from the pop world, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what I think. I was actually talking to one of my old students about this the other day, because I'm a jaded old man, a jaded old pop punk man at this point. And I was like, dude, you know, it's just like, it's synthetic now, I feel like, you know, which is an acquired taste and can be cool, but I am just so much more of like a, you know, I want it to sound like a band, dude. I want it to be loud and, you know, just sound good and not fake, I guess, you know.
I hear you. I think that's also why we don't, like, you know, the ending and the intro of the songs don't have callback call outs anymore, or like don't end with a tempo change, or like it's ending on a zow, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
One thing that a lot of people don't realize as an asset for a producer is to have a command on interpersonal relationships. Can you recollect any incident where you being good at communication with people literally saved the day in the studio?
I mean, like, I feel like that kind of happens every day. Well, maybe not like save the day, but I think the reason that, you know, a lot of the people that I work with come back to me is because like in the music industry, in my opinion, the most important thing that you can do is just be a good hang. You know what I mean? And it's impossible to be a good hang if you can't communicate. And
Dude,
so, yeah, like I always tell everybody on like the first time that we meet up, I'm just like, yo, like we're hanging out, like we're buds, we're hanging out, and we're just making shit. Like we're you know, this isn't like some super stiff like recording session. Like, no, we're just kicking it. Like we're watching a movie. Like I'll put on like I think the session I did yesterday, we were watching Scooby-Doo. And like making like post-hardcore like type, you know what I mean? And so I think that is very important, like setting a vibe and being able to communicate, especially when like people have different ideas. Like, I mean, the you know, the term like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to happen, you know, especially when like I do sessions where like a whole band will be in. I am now the mediator between all of those people. And I'm telling you, 0 times out of 10, everyone's going to have the exact same idea, you know? And so you have to be able to mediate and like try things, but also I have to impart like, okay, well, you know, this is what I think would work. And sometimes it's like, I'm going to take a little bit of this from this idea and this from this idea. And we're going to put this together and then it's going to go into this thing. But it's always like, you know, being able to make sure that everybody gets what they want and is happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's half my job.
Yeah. Because I think if a producer comes across, like even though no matter how much like, you know, you would want to save the song, it's at the end of the day, it's their music, their track. So what would be best is to make them understand that why what you're suggesting would be better, but you cannot enforce that, because that's then just gonna, because people don't like like being told what to do, right?
No,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that comes into play a lot. And yeah, man, do you what do you see the most often that happens as like part of a band thing, where you're having to mediate between band members, and what do you feel is like, sometimes a stressful thing to do, but without that the project can't go further, stuff like that.
I mean, like, I guess it's kind of like as soon as people are like, I will die on this hill, like it has to be this way. That's when I'm like, "Ooh, okay, yep, cool. Like, okay, cool. We got to really pull something out so that everybody here can be happy. But, luckily, like most of the people that I work with are super chill and down to earth. And that's like honestly a big criteria for me, like when I'm, deciding if I'm going to do a project, is like, will I be able to argue with these people healthily? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because dude, I like in my personal relationships, I don't do conflict at all.
same.
And so I very much vet the people that I work with on whether, when the going gets tough, if we can just have a conversation about it. But in those situations, you do kind of have to make compromises, and you have to be okay with making compromises, especially like writing, because everyone takes like the art that they make so personally, which you should, because it's basically, your brain being manifested in physical form. And that's scary,
True.
And so, yeah, my job is always to take what you are doing and amplify it. So like you're not coming to me for, well, I mean, people come to me for my sound, right? But in reality, what they're getting is just my way of turning them up. I feel like a lot of people do. A lot of producers have their own sound, and like, a lot of their songs come out sounding very similar. And I remember when I was first getting into this, Nail the Mix would be like, you have to find your niche and do that one thing. I don't really like that. I feel like every band that I work with sounds drastically different from one another. And so, yeah, I guess like, I don't even know how I got onto this topic, but I guess like, yeah, you just gotta like amplify what people bring to you. And being able to do that is being able to communicate back and forth and get the ideas across the best way possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And how often does this happen that, like a band gets too excited that they start getting ahead of themselves? And what I mean by that is that without even having some sort of demo down, they're like, oh, we got to put this after this so that when this comes in, it's going to sound super sick. And for the next time, we're going to remove this section so that it feels like we're doing something. How often does that happen?
It happens a lot of the time with like the people that like, when we first start working together, and like they just get super pumped and like, or whatever. But
and how do you bring those guys back? Like, come on, Gore, like, just chill,
yeah,
and,
for
like,
sure,
let's
for
work
sure.
it through.
That's
how do
when
you do that?
You just got to hit them with the, we'll get there. But like, at the same time, I'm compartmentalizing everything that they're saying. And that is my job, to be an organizer more than anything, and to take all of these ideas and put them in, to keep everything in line and ready to go, like when the time is right. And so a lot of the time people come in and they just get really excited. But like, the people that I work with regularly, they do that. They'll be like, I'll get through one section and then I'll be like, okay, cool, what are you thinking? And they're like, boom, got it. And a lot of the time, like the more that I work with someone, the more that our brains sync and I understand how they think. So I'm already on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest, I think it's something that happens over time, but being a producer means having a taste and a solid taste that defines how things go. And how do you make sure like something happens in a certain way just based on your taste and based on your instincts and stuff like that?
Sure. I mean, I think it's like, it's pretty situational. You know, if I had like two different bands in with me, I would approach probably the same thing two completely different ways. I will say it is very hard to not fall into the trap of repetitiveness. You know, like, especially like when you're writing every day, it's so easy to just be like, okay, cool. Yeah. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus out, you know? Right. And sometimes that is the right answer. You know, that is what the song needs. So it's like this delicate balance of like, I don't want to fall too deep into routine, but also sometimes that's what's right, you know, if it's straightforward. But yeah, as far as like taste goes, to me, it's always first instinct. Like your first instinct, 90% of the time is going to be right. Like I remember in my high school, one of my high school English classes, my English teacher said, she was like, yeah, my favorite writer, the way that she describes her poems is she says that it's like a physical being that she has to chase. Okay. And if she takes too long to chase after it, it's gone. And she can try to remember what it was, but she won't know exactly what it was unless she catches it. Right?
Right.
And so for me, it's all about speed, right? Like I have my template set up. I have my tone set up. I know exactly what I want to go for. All of these things. And I'm trying to, like, I'll have a rough outline. Like if somebody brings me a half-baked song, I listen to it and I know what the whole thing needs to sound like, right? So I'm chasing it. And whether it's like I'm starting at the beginning, most of the time I start at the beginning and go all the way through the end and it kind of builds itself out. But sometimes it's like I hear this part and I don't know where it's going to go. So I'm going to track this out in space, you know, way out to the right. And then I'll drag it where it needs to go. But then also like I hear this drum part somewhere and I'll just like piecemeal everything together.
Gotcha.
But it's always like get what is in your brain out as fast as possible, because the longer it stays in, the more you're going to overcook it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. When you're running your own studio, there's a lot of admin stuff that we like, you know, we all probably, nobody likes doing admin stuff, especially if you're in the creative industry, right? But it's like a, you know, a necessary evil of sorts, because without that, you're not getting anything done. And as in like, you know, with time, you'll get better and you'll get more clients and you'll get, you know, high quality people you're working with, and you have to be on top of all that stuff. I can see why it can be overwhelming for a lot of people, not only at the initial stage, but also someone who's like doing it professionally for a while. So what I wanted to ask you was like, how does your admin / organization process look like? Like, how do you stay on top of stuff like client deadlines or like, you know, meetings? What sort of things you use, and like what are the things that you learned the hard way, and what are the things that like anyone starting out in 2025 should definitely avoid doing those mistakes?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I got incredibly lucky, and I have a manager who is like one of my best friends. Like I'm very anti you know, like giving up the reins on a lot of things. Like, again, you know, painfully DIY. Like I've lifted myself up by my own bootstraps, you know? And, but Dave, my manager, is like solely like he is the person who has like made me who I am today, without a doubt. Like,
damn. Shout out Dave.
Shout out Dave. Honestly, yeah. Dave is the most important person in my life, career wise. And, yeah, he was in a band that I produced for, and he went to Belmont, which is like a music school here in Nashville, and he left that band and started doing artist management, and then he was doing some tour management, and he just called me one day, and he would like, he was the only person that I knew who was like, yeah, I'll read a contract and tell you what's wrong with it. You know what I mean? And so over COVID, I had moved home because I wasn't getting any work in Nashville, and I was actually ready to sell all of my gear. I was like living with my parents. I was just going to quit for a couple of years until I could move back to Nashville. But I was going to like sell all my stuff. And then there was an EP that I did that got one of my buddies signed to like a smaller label over in the UK, but it was like it distributed through Universal. So it was like a big deal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so they like sent me contracts and stuff, and I like hit up Dave and I was like, hey dude, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in, you know what I mean? And I send him everything and he reads over and he's like, dude, could I like manage you? And I was like, you want to manage me? What do you mean? There's like there's not really much going on. And he was like, yeah, but like there could be. And so ever since then, he has been like, he basically is just like, I know what you're good at. Because when I was working with his band, I would charge people $200 to like write, record, produce, mix, master, everything. Just because I wanted to do it, and I didn't know what it cost. I was also doing everything out of my bedroom. And so I was just like, oh, well, I'm just like lowly, like I don't have a studio or like, blah, blah, blah. Like, and he was like, dude, you're like, you're literally ripping yourself off. Like, you are not good with money. Like, you're not good. Again, it comes from the conflict thing. Like, I don't want to ask people for money, I just want to make the music. And so Dave has turned into my, he like handles all of my booking and pricing, because I don't really like having that conversation. I'll talk to you about your music all day long, but I really don't like talking about money and stuff. Because, it makes me feel bad. Like, if I could, and I really do hope that I get to this point one day where it's like, I get a record that's like, making me royalties and I can pay all my bills. And then it's like, cool, like one band a month that I just think is dope on the internet, come do a single. Let's just do it, because like you need it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But Dave is literally my man. And he's like, he has my best interests in mind when I don't have my best interests in mind. He's the one that got me like all of my touring gigs. It was kind of funny. I was like in the studio, I'd gone through a breakup. So I was just like in grind mode, and I was like working till 4 a.m. every night, like just no windows, like in the dark. And he calls me and he's like, hey dude, so I'm just letting you know, I completely wiped your calendar from October through December. And I was like, what the hell, dude? Like, how am I going to pay rent? And he goes, well, you're going on tour. You're going on tour with this band called Rivals, and you're gonna travel and you're gonna have fun and you're gonna get the hell out of here for a little bit. And I was like, dude, I don't want to do that. Like, no, I just want to like work, like I want to write riffs and make videos and blah 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 blah. And he was like, yeah, you want to do that, but you shouldn't, And so yeah, I went on tour with Rivals for 2 months, and they became some of my best friends, and that's exactly what I needed. I needed to get out, but I would have never done it.
Hell yeah, man. That's so cool. That's really, really awesome of him to do that for you.
Yep.
I'm glad that you have that relationship with him. And I just wanted to ask that. So it's that comes from the touring, but what would you say is like, is it word of mouth that you get your production session work gigs, and is it recurring clients? Like, how does that work out?
Yeah, it's always sort of been majority word of mouth, which to me, I think
the best
is like
way.
The most valuable, like best thing you could ever ask for. But since my Instagram's kind of blown up a little bit, and the riffs get like the riff videos that I post get a lot of traction, and I'll get work through those. I've been doing actually probably more work outside of Nashville than I have in Nashville, which has been really sick. Yeah, like remote, or like bands coming in and staying with me for, however long, um, which is really sick. And so, but yeah, I mean, within Nashville, it's more or less all word of mouth. But yeah, I I need to do more outreach. I think outreach is something that like a lot of people really don't take advantage of. Um, and like I said, I've gotten extremely lucky, and I'm so grateful for like, everybody that follows me, because I feel like, I have way more clout than I should, just because of like my
Nah, your
followers
riffs
and
are
stuff.
cool. Your riffs are cool.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. But yeah, just like reaching out to people, I think is also a very good. It's like I said, being a good hang, and like you can be a good hang on the internet. For example, Graham is like the best hang on the internet, because every
Yes.
time he says anything, I'm just like, I love that dude.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah.
That sounds very true, dude. I've been seeing like a lot of like brand partnerships on your front lately. So like, what have you learned about brand partnerships by doing brand partnerships?
Oh man, I think as a producer, that is like the best thing in the world. That like, oh dude, it's so awesome. I've just been so lucky and fortunate. So PreSonus, I use Studio One. That's like my main DAW, and I've been using it for, I don't know, like 12 years at this point. I've been using it for a long time. No, it's been more than that. Every time that I posted my riff videos, I was just like, well, all the cool people tag all the brands that they use in their videos. So like, I should do that, like, who do I want to work with that I use? And Dustin Phillips, who's like PreSonus's social media director guy or whatever, he found me on TikTok. And dude, as soon as I saw that like someone who worked for PreSonus was interacting with me, I was like, this is it. Like, I've made it. I've endured the torture of people being like, what? I've never heard of Studio One. Oh, why don't you use a real DAW? Like all of that for years. And so finally, like, met Dustin. He's awesome. He introduced me to like a bunch more, PreSonus people. And I actually got to meet like the design team when I went up to New York. I went up to New York for like when they released Studio One version 7, and got to meet like the guy who invented ARA. Like, because PreSonus is like the first DAW that invented ARA. And so like Melodyne, Vocal Line, like all of that, thank PreSonus for ARA like integration.
Dude, I had no idea about that. Wow.
Yep. PreSonus was the first DAW to like include Melodyne in it, in version 3, which was, I got it in version 2. And I remember like when I downloaded version 3, I was like, oh, I just have Melodyne now? That's crazy. But yeah, so like, and then through PreSonus, Fender owns PreSonus. So I was like, this literally can't get any better. Like, my favorite guitar company owns my favorite DAW, and so I met some Fender people, and I've done some work for them. I actually just had
You're wearing a Fender hoodie right now.
I am, yep. I just did an ad for the Tone Master, actually, that just came out today. And so yeah, like they'll send me stuff to try out. And like, yeah, I honestly think that the ability to shoot content has the ability to completely change your life,
True. True.
Like, if you can do it and you can take it seriously, and you can just like, I think a lot of people talk about like, oh, that's like cringe or whatever. And it's like, might be, but like, if you can do that and like, you're able to make things that are appealing to brands, then like, dude, you're set, I mean, like like, especially if it's like tools that you will use, which was always kind of the thing for me. It's like, I'm going to promote the things that I use. And especially if they're good,
Yeah.
I've gotten some things from some brands that I'm just kind of like, I'm not going to say anything about this because I don't really have anything nice to say about it. You know what I mean?
I
Um,
totally get you.
but yeah, I think yeah, working with brands is just like it's the best. I love, you know, being able to support companies. I mean, Fender's like a big company,
Yeah.
obviously, but like even smaller companies, like I've done. I mean, JHS is a pretty big company, but I've done some stuff with JHS and dude, Spline Labs, like the Cathedral pedal. Dude, they are so sick and they're like super sweet people. Like that to me is like what's really cool is like getting to meet sort of like the people behind, you know, like the down home, like, you know, smaller
Right.
businesses.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think as a creator, it's like the best way to learn about business is by being involved in the loop of like as a because it's like influencer marketing, but it's
Yeah.
like organic marketing. And since you said that you would do it for or like if somebody does it for products that they already use, there's already that confidence in like that people have seen this person use this already, and now that they're being backed by a company, just like
Mm-hmm.
makes that confidence amplify in, and it comes across as very natural that yes, I've used this and I know this thing like probably inside out, and
Yeah.
now that we have partnered with them, it just makes sense to do that. Yeah, I'm totally siding with you on that. And I also get why some people take a step back from doing that. We have had a few guests on the podcast, like who are artists and they've done a lot of stuff for the companies, but then they've started to lose track of things where it's like, oh, well, what are we doing again? And then every time the answer comes boils down to making music.
There was a couple ads that I made 2 years ago or something that felt very like ad y,
Yeah.
you know?
I see.
And I remember doing them and I would watch them back and just be like, this just doesn't feel genuine. Like this feels like an ad. This feels like someone paid me to say X, Y, and Z, right?
Right.
And so recently I've tried to like steer away from the whole like, hello, my name is Joey Burcham and I am here with the X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 here to make your day, your life easier, your mix is better, you know? And it's more like I want to show, like, people don't, I mean, I don't really think people seek out ads in the first place, but when people watch an ad, like, they want to see the thing being used. You know, like they want to, like, why should I get, you can tell me why I should buy it, but unless I see it with my own two eyes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so for me, it's kind of like I've been able to bridge, or I've tried to bridge the gap between like my riffs and the ads. Like I did one for Robot Dog Studios, which is like a smaller, you know,
The drum.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did one for them, and that's probably like the best ad that I've made. And literally all it is it's one of my riff videos, but with like the drum GUI over it. Ryan from Robot Dog like made the ad, and it's sick. Like, you know, I feel like that one converted a lot of people because it was the thing actually in use. It wasn't me being like complete with 7 different multi-velocity snare samples. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
this is how I use it. I mean, I did the same thing with the Cathedral pedal, and that one, you know, that was so sick. I had a lot of fun making that, and I think that's the thing is like, if you're making something, you know, whether it is intentionally for an ad or it's for your own art for people's consumption, if you're not having fun while you do it, it's not going to feel.
People can tell.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Big time. Well, if inspiration's kind of something you just can't fake. You know what I mean?
True. True.
Yeah. So that's, yeah, it's got to be able to like do it for you. It's kind of got to be able to promote itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like one main thing that I want like your opinion on is that, like you mentioned earlier in the chat, that you like to do stuff DIY. So has a lot of people in the last 5 years, due to so many different virtual drum libraries, virtual bass libraries, and all these crazy cool awesome production VSTs that we have in the market. Everyone thinks that they can produce their own stuff, and most of the times they're successful. However, I have spent time working with a producer on a new EP of mine, and I realize what value a producer can bring to the table. But I want to know from you that in an environment or in an era where everything can be done so DIY,
Yeah.
why should one what role does a producer fulfill, and why is still there a need of a producer?
Right. I think that like real, like, the producer, as it's, been referred to throughout history, is kind of dying, unfortunately.
Okay.
Everyone is kind of a producer now, but like, the Rick Rubin interview where he's like, I don't play any instruments. I don't know how any of this stuff works. Like people hire me literally for my taste and my ability to communicate. Right. That is, to me, is like still so true. Like you were saying, the like drum libraries and amp VSTs and all of these things, right? Like we're living in a day and age where you can spend, $500 on plugins, just download them to your laptop, track a bunch of stuff in, and it will sound pretty good. Like it'll sound good, however, I think what a good producer does is allows for, or maybe not allows for, but like a good producer is able to make music stand out. Where it's like, I don't know. I have noticed, like, I can tell when drums are modern and massive, like on a release. Like I know the Vinnie Paul snare, I know the recording custom, like I know the Superphonic, and there's nothing wrong with that at all because they sound great, But I think like somebody like me, who I've literally dedicated my entire life to this at this point, like there's no going back, at this
Hell
point.
yeah. Hell yeah.
I am going to be able to tell you, like, hey, either one, you need to tune your guitar, or you need to practice more, or this sounds a little generic, I am my role as a producer is to be your inner monologue that you are going to ignore. You know what I mean? I am
Right.
the what's the word I'm trying to think of?
The compass that points to the North Star.
Yes. I'm like, yeah, like there is no like the compass is always going to point north. It's never going to be subjective, or
Right.
it's always going to be subjective. I don't know. One of those two things, like I am unbiased. That's what I'm trying to say. And that is the role of a producer. And, there's going to be good ones. There's going to be bad ones. I wouldn't hit up, my buddy that makes like, trap beats to produce deathcore album for me. Or maybe I would. Maybe it could be cool. Like you have to find the right fit, and that takes a little bit of experimentation. But I think that like a good producer, above all, is like so in touch with like what the vibe needs to be.
True.
Even past the point of like, you might know what the vibe needs to be, or you might know what you want the vibe to be, but you might not know what it needs to be. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so that's like my job, is to basically like facilitate all of your ideas in a way that makes sense.
Right. And also articulating nonsensical words into actual production. Like the guitar tone needs to be a little bit more twangy and
Oh,
has
dude,
to have that
scrongly.
swish.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I have to have scrongly guitars.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are your favorite of those words? I think the one that I've heard, like, the one that I think Clayton told me once, Clayton King, was like
Yeah.
throaty guitar tone. I'm like,
Throaty, that's pretty good.
what is a throaty guitar tone? But I don't know what a throaty guitar tone is, but I can tell you when I hear one for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mine is probably Velcro. Like I want my guitars to sound like Velcro. You know what I mean?
Is it like scratchy?
Yeah, like when you like rip Velcro apart?
Right, yeah.
That is like what I want my top end to sound like.
Ah, I see.
Yeah,
Damn,
I don't know.
That's a
I don't
new
know.
one.
That and yeah, I mean like twangly. I like twangly.
Yeah. It's like fourth position single coil.
Exactly. Yeah. Bill Murray. Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. Yeah, Bill Murray.
Yeah. The answer is always Bill Murray.
Bill Murray, dude. Because I posted an Instagram story the other day with one of the white amp from Archetype Nolly, and I had a similar tone on a humbucker, and I got so many comments as a reply saying, "Oh, this sounds like Bill Murray," and I'm like, "Damn, it's so good to see that their band has such an influence that a fourth." Because for us, it's probably like fourth position single coil, but
right.
That's how we would describe it, but. For some people, like them describing as, oh, this is the Bill Murray side of it.
Well, dude,
that means the band has had such an impact that people like.
It's crazy here in Nashville. Like this
really?
is like Suit City, right? Like everyone here is like industry. Everyone wants to sound like Bill Murray. Like maybe not
really?
like the full heavy thing, but dude, Johnny is a fucking genius, bro. Like he is. Written and like it goes back to the whole like at the heart of every good song is like pop writing, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But Bill Murray just writes pop songs, and dude, that octave drop, like country twang sound, that is like the cool new thing now. And yeah, I mean like dude, they're legends around here. Like even in like the pop scene, like everyone is just like, dude, this is so good. And it's like my friends from high school who were like, if you showed them Attack, they would be like, what the fuck is this shit? They love Bill Murray.
Yeah. Do you have any stories that you would like to share?
I guess like my favorite experience, like recording anything, right? So I had just gotten off of those 2 tours with Rivals. I was also like going through that breakup that I was telling you about.
Right.
And so like, I'm having like post-tour depression on top of like post-girlfriend depression. Right. And, I'm so sad. And I'm also in the middle of moving. So I was moving into this place, but my lease had run up at my old spot, and I was renting a studio at this time too.
I see.
And I moved out of that studio because I was setting it up here. This is in my house. And so I was making a record with my buddies in this band called Kid Pastel. And they had this like beat up house. It was just, the floors were like a carpet was just like moldy, and it was just disgusting. Right. And so I moved everything out of the house that I was living at, put it in their garage. I brought all of my studio gear from my studio, put it in their basement, and I just lived in their basement for 3 weeks while we were making this EP. And, yeah, it was like, it was literally nothing special. It was just like a big basement, open basement. Like the house had to have been built in the 70s because it was like paneled wood everywhere, like kind of looked like a log cabin. It was really sick. But everything that we did on that EP was live. We did all live drums. There's like maybe a snare room sample on the record. We did all live amps. we tracked everything through the quad, but then I took the DIs and we reamped through like their amps, my amps, and everything. And I think it's one of the best sounding records that I've ever made, because it's like, it's all real, you know? And I was really scared because, like, you know, you get into that part where it's like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to change the guitar tone a little more. And, you know, you just open up, you know, archetype, whatever, and just tweak the knob. And then it's like, oh, cool, I tweaked it. But this time I was like, you know what? I want to make, like, I don't want to have commitment issues. Like, I want to just do it. And so, yeah, we tracked drums, we tracked live amps. You know, there's like, we tracked synths in, and like, there was some MIDI stuff that we did, but most of it was like my mini log, like tracked in with like a 1/4-inch cable. So it was like, there's no going back from some of this stuff, you know?
Right.
And it might not be the best sounding thing that I've ever done, but I think it's the vibiest, because like, you know, and also we did that with like, you know, I mean, my drum mic library, but like, a 57 and like a Cascade Fathead and a 7B, you know what I mean? And so I would like, I guess like, from what to deduce from that story is like, you know, put mics on stuff, like play around with stuff some more, you know, like, like having, you know, all of the drum libraries, and, you know, I know that it is hard to like, you know, track drums and stuff, like, you know,
the accessibility of it comes at a cost of convenience. Yeah.
Well, but dude, like the first 2 records that I tracked drums on, I did it with like a Scarlett, you know, 4 input, like that interface that's literally right there. I had 4 inputs, and it was like overhead kick snare, and like track drums like that. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think like I'm scared of the like the archetype event horizon, where like every guitar tone is just going to start sounding the same, and all of the drums are just going to start sounding the same. And
isn't that happen already? Like,
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want it to keep happening, you know, like try weird shit, like use archetype, but then like mic up your monitors or something, you know, like do something just to like, because I got, you know, results from a project that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life, literally just because we were like, fuck it, it might sound bad, but let's try it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, yeah, that's, I don't know. That's what I would.
That's awesome. Not only does it goes to show that you don't need as fancy of a place or a proper studio to like, you know, do that. You could literally do it in a basement if you wanted.
Yeah.
But also that, having stuff that's live, like actually adds to the sentimental value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No,
exactly. That's really true. I totally agree with that. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and he said that a lot of the producers or a lot of the guitar players in the past had their own like, you know, like favorite stuff, and I'm guilty of this too. That since we have had that accessibility of so many guitar amps and guitar cabs at our disposal, that we don't take the time to learn the characteristic nature of those things and why we like the things that we like, instead of just playing around with the default setting on an amp. And he said that, dude, if you just like, you know, learn how to mic an amp, you would be sounding more original than like, you know, just with your guitar tone.
No.
And I'm like, dude, there's so much gravity to that.
That's exactly how I feel. I mean, like every month or 2 months, I don't wipe my quad, but I like start over. Like I start all my default tones over, just so that they're always staying fresh, you know? And like, I mean, I've got like my reamp set up here, and sometimes when it calls for it, like, yeah, we'll reamp a bunch of stuff like through like my fray it and like just attenuate it down. But it does make such a difference, you know, making like a speaker physically move, you know, like a capsule physically move. Even if you are like emulating or like using amp sims, like download a random IR pack or something, you know, like change up the norm is like my, you know, just experiment more, I guess, is my thing.
I want to be on that train. I would love to get your recommendations on some of the pop punk bands that people are sleeping on, the bands that you think are like, really making a statement in the pop punk scene that you would want to shout them out or like, just feel inspired by.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, like, as always, like, the Story So Far is the greatest band of all time. Story So Far, Knuckle Puck, like for going back, but recently, I've been like finding a bunch of really cool bands, some pure noise bands. There's a band called Stateside that I think is really sick. And then I have some friends in Milwaukee, or like Milwaukee, sort of like Wisconsin area, that are just making this like incredible, it's like fifth wave emo, which like, Story and Knuckle Puck was like fourth wave emo technically according to Wikipedia. And this is kind of like, it's like very kind of like Midwest like type stuff. Dude, there's this band, I just did a record with them. They're called Ends Well.
Okay.
Bro, I'm telling you, they are like, they're like my favorite band right now. And the record we just made is so sick. Shameless plug, but yeah,
if it's good, it's good,
So. Yeah, there's a band up there called Bottom Bracket that is really sick too. It's like very like Midwest emo, like the fuck, like
got it,
pull off like kind of tappy stuff. There's another band called M-Way that's really cool. A couple of members from or one of the members from Enswell is in M-Way.
Okay.
I did a tour up through there in 2018, and ever since, dude, I've just been like absolutely captivated by that music scene that's going on up in Wisconsin right now. And dude, there's so many bands up there. My buddy used to be in a band called Honey Creek that's like super sick. I don't know. I like, just if you look into a couple of those bands and like see who their mutuals are, like every single band in Wisconsin that's like under that umbrella is like fire. Like I find a new band every day that I'm just like, this is insane. So yeah, I'm like, I want to be making some trips up there and working with some more bands. And so yeah, I remember I went to NAMM and Graham hit me up and was like, dude, like come to the Bare Knuckle booth. And I was like, oh, word, okay. And I like show up and Jason from Belmont was there. He's like a buddy of mine. And like, we kind of nerded out because I feel like they're similar to my style. But then like Kian Hauschman showed up and like Connor Kaminsky.
Yeah. They both have been on the podcast.
I saw. Yeah. And I like, dude, at one point like Tosin was there and Misha was there. And I was just like, dude, I got to get out of here. I just play pull-offs, bro. Like, this is not me, like these guys are good. Like, I just kind of, and like, it's really been cool for me to like find all of this new stuff and like look at it kind of in a new light where it's like, yeah, this is kind of genty and like, I like that kind of stuff, but also like seeing it in a new light of like, oh wow, I guess like, this does kind of sound like what I do. And it's been
a different
really
perspective.
Yeah, like a different perspective. And dude, like, I don't know, I've been listening to Kian stuff a bunch recently, which has been really cool. But yeah, like everybody rips and I'm just like, I never really wanted to be a guitar player. Like I want to be a producer. I want to make records, and that was a means of me kind of just putting myself out there more to meet more people, to make more records. But yeah, dude, like music's just so cool. And like the people that it brings together, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
I wouldn't trade anything, for this. It's so sick.
And what's funny is that people that you mentioned, like Tosin, Mishan, those people, from what I've observed, and like people who have an established sound, they always love interacting and hanging out with people who don't sound like them. So yeah. I think if you went up to Misha, like he would take you to a shooting range and
Yeah, or like
hey,
take
yo,
me in
buddy,
one of his cars or something. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
dude,
That's gonna
I have actually have a funny story. Well, it's a secondhand story about Misha, but my buddy, I'm originally from DC, like I said.
DC. Yeah, he's from
And
DC. Yeah.
yeah, so one of my buddies like saw a listing somewhere on the internet, and it was for like an amp. I think it was for like a 5150 or like a Mesa, something like that. So text the guy, they meet up or whatever. He like pulls up to this house, and there's like a really nice Audi parked outside or something. I might be telling the story wrong, but Misha walks out, and my friend just shits his pants. He's like, I would fucking buy an amp, and it'd be Misha, because like we were big Periphery guys back in high school or whatever, and so the whole time he's just like white knuckled on his steering wheel, like, hello, and like. Yeah, dude, Misha just like invited him in and was like, yeah, you want to play it? And like they hung out for like 30, 45 minutes. He's like the nicest dude, And that is like so sick to hear. Like I love when it's like somebody's just dope and they're good, happen,
Yeah, true. And I'm gonna definitely listen to the recommendations that you send or shouted out after our conversation, because I'm really looking forward to listening to more pop punk. I've just been going back to the old records, and I think I need something new.
That's me, dude. I'm like, I listen to the same 5 records just on repeat from high school. I'll send you that
please.
That band ends well. I'll send you the record that we just made. It's like not mixed or anything, but I'll send it to you.
I would
check
love
it out.
to.
Let me know what you think.
I would love to. Yeah. But have you realized that every time you go back to those records you loved, and after you've done that, let's just say a year later or 2 years later, you always end up finding something that you missed before as things.
Well, actually, I was thinking about this the other day too. I think the reason that I do go back is because like, producer brain, like when you listen to something, you're like kind of overanalyzing it or whatever.
Right.
And I think a lot of the reason why I've listened to What You Don't See probably at least 5,000 times at this point is because like, yeah, I'll find something new, but I'm always listening to it to enjoy it. It's never like, oh, what's the relationship between the kick and bass? Or like, oh, wow, I really like how the vocals are popping out over top of are they like side chaining this? You know what I mean? Like, I've listened to it so many times that like, not to say it's like white noise now, but like I can listen to it and enjoy it rather than analyze it. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one hurdle that I was having a conversation with a few friends of mine, and they were like, oh, when they started to learn how to mix, most of their favorite records started to sound shit because they were old.
Yep.
And then they come to realize that it's not shit sounding. It was just the preference that they were having at that time was not in alignment with what the kind of sound that their favorite record had.
That's like I used to Kublai Khan.
Yeah.
I used to love Nomad. I used to think that Nomad was like the fattest sounding record, and I still think that it's like super fat. But then like the record after that got just like really sludgy, and I hated the guitar tones the first time that I heard it, because I was like, dude, Will Putney's tones are just so like. But then I got out of that phase of just like wall of sound thick guitars, and I was like, oh, dude, this is so sludgy. I went from being like, oh, this is sludgy to like, oh, this is sludgy, and like it's funny how it's like your taste buds, like your taste buds change. You start to like different foods. Same thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I would love to just take a moment to say thank you, firstly, for coming on the podcast and taking the time to share your journey and your experiences, and how do you carry out your business but also a creative business as a producer and someone like. I think the main takeaway from this is that a producer is an organizer that tries to amplify a band rather than try to project what they like or they don't like.
Absolutely.
And yeah, man.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. Like, honestly, this has been so sick. Like, I love talking about this stuff. Yeah, dude. No, it's been a great time.
Oh, it's been a pleasure having you, man. I've been wanting to have you for a while, and I'm so glad that we finally were able to do this. And
Same, dude.
yeah, yeah. As a parting note, do you have any thoughts for any upcoming producers? If you want to share some piece of advice or like some words that might like help someone get the ball rolling as far
Yeah.
as it's starting out with production, mix, engineering, or just making music, and any advice that you were given that really helped you along the way, all of that good
Yeah.
stuff. This would love to hear that from you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I never really had a mentor, really. I kind of was just like, how much can I fuck this up before I like it? You know what I mean? And so for me, the best advice that I could give is to never stop experimenting, never settle into a routine. Always be trying new things, get your stuff done on time. You know what I mean? But like, always try to approach things differently. And sometimes it might not work. That's okay. When it doesn't work, that's a good thing, you know? Um, I think the best thing that I ever did when I was starting out was I would cover everything. I would like make instrumental covers. I lived with a roommate who was a really good singer, and he was like me. He listened to everything, and so we would make covers. Like I would cover like balance and composure, and then I would cover like the
Dude, I
stories
love balance and
bro.
composure.
Oh, dude, balance. I got to see them with Turnover recently on the tour, dude. Literally one of my favorite bands. One of my favorites. Would cover, but we would do everything. We would cover like balancing composure, and then the next day we would cover like DNCE or like the Jonas Brothers, and then we would cover like, you know, we would just do everything, and I would try to make it sound as close to the record as possible, like as close as I could get it. And then it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, now if I need that sort of like grungy, like overdriven guitar tone, I know how to do it because I covered balance. But if I want that like type of like
Right.
funky, like Corey Wong stuff, I did that because I did DNCE. And I think like you have to listen, even if you don't enjoy it, you have to listen to a lot of things to get inspiration from a lot of things, you know? So like experiment, do things that are outside of your comfort zone, because that's the only way that you get better. It's literally the only way that you get better. And yeah, just it's experiment, you know? Like don't just expect the first thing you do to work. You know, don't be lazy, I guess.
Right.